everybody, and welcome to Crochet by Starlight. Today we are going to be working on this cute little tote bag, and it's the Not Your Granny's Tote. And what I've done is I've just done a series of crochet granny squares. There's 4 squares per side. They're joined. A cute little border along the top where the tote bag is. So there's 4 squares per panel. Again, they're joined and then just stitched all the way around. I've added buttonholes to the top border and buttons. And the buttons are attached to these great little canvas bags. I just bought a pack of canvas bags from Michaels, and you can definitely not use the buttons and just sew it on to the bag itself, but I thought it would be better to use the button so that the crochet work is removable. You just unbutton it here to show you so that the crochet comes out so that you can wash the tote bag. If it gets dirty, you can go ahead and wash that. You can change these panels out if you want to make a nice little cover. Maybe do one for the different seasons. You can make a winter cover. You can make, holidays, Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, whatever you want, Halloween. And you can use this as a little trick-or-treat bag as well for Halloween. So this is what we're working on today, the Not Your Granny's Tote, okay? So what you're going to need is I just went to Michael's and I purchased these tote bags, and they're in natural, so they're unfinished, and they are 13.5 inches by 13.5 inches, and the bottom is 3.5 inches wide. So this one was a 3-piece, and I want to say it was maybe like $12, and then I used a coupon to get these at Michael's. They're by Imaginate, and they're canvas totes. And they got these little handles on there, so all you really have to do is do the cover for them. And I'm just going to pull one out and show you the tote. So real simple. It's got the handles. Okay, so when you make your granny squares, if you want to do different squares, my squares here take about 1/4 of the tote. So they're kind of folded in quarters in their in this little package. They're kind of folded in quarters. So I just measured out what my square would be, and my square ends up being six rounds, and we're good to go. Just do my little border and call it a day. You're going to need, in addition to your tote, you need a pair of scissors, darning needle. I've used an H 5mm crochet hook on my tissues. You're going to need some buttons, and I'm not quite sure which buttons I'm going to use, so I have a couple packages here with a whole slew of different buttons, so I'll decide my buttons at the end. And you're going to need some yarn. Okay, I'm using 2 separate variegated yarns, just so I have a little more color. You can use a solid color, you can use 2 solid colors, 5 solid colors, whatever you'd like to do for your granny squares. Okay, and it's up to you how you want them to be. So I've already made all of my squares that I'm going to use for this project, and you can see I didn't bother to cut my yarn at the end of each round. I just went ahead and made a back side and a front side. So the front side, you can see, is without the joins. The back side has all of the joins. So I'm going to work one granny square with you and show you how I did those. And then I'm going to show you how to join them all together to make the bag. So we're going to go ahead and start with, let's see, I don't know which one we're going to start with. We're going to start with our solid yarn here. I'll move this one out of the way. And we're just going to make our slip knot. Okay, then you're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. You're going to join that to the first chain with a slip stitch to form a circle. So you're going to be working inside this circle right here. Okay, so we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to work 2 double crochets into the center of our circle. There's 1 and 2. Okay, so that chain 3 from the beginning counts as a stitch. And we have 3 double crochets. We're going to chain 2, work 3 double crochets into our circle. 1, 2, and 3. Now you can crochet over the tail if you'd like. I'm just going to weave it in at the end so that it's more secure. Chain 2, and you're going to work 4 sets of double crochet clusters, okay? So this is our 3rd set. That's our 3rd double crochet. Chain 2, and you can move them out of your way to open up that circle. And you can see the circle clearly now that you've worked a few double crochets in there. And 3. And we're going to do our last chain 2. Then you're going to go ahead and find the top of your starting chain 3. Insert your hook into that stitch and slip stitch. Okay, so here we're going to join our next color, which is this lovely ball of variegated here. And we're just going to pull it through, find our working yarn, and chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. What I do is I just grab the working yarn from that first color and just pull it tight so that you just have your chain 3, and we're going to turn. Now we're going to be working on the back side, and we're going to work into this chain 2, and we're going to work 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And since this is a corner, we're working into the 4 corners now. We're going to chain 2, and we're going to work 3 more double crochets. And here's our 3rd one. Okay, whoops. So now you have a set of 3 double crochets, a chain 2 right here, and then a second set of 3 double crochets. We're going to work into our next chain 2 space between our 3 double crochet clusters. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 2. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so now we have 2 of our 4 corners. Work 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And it's a corner stitch, chain 2. And then to that same corner, 3 more. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, now there are no chains in between our corners, or in between our sets of corner stitches. So these stitches here, there's not a chain. We're just going to work straight through. So we're not going to chain here that we've just put our last 3 double crochets for that corner. We're just going to put our next set of double crochets into that last corner. Okay, that's 2 and 3. And this is the only spot in this round where you add your chain 2 and work your last set of double crochets and 3. Okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to find the top of that first chain 3, and you're going to slip stitch it to join. Now what you're going to want to do is bring this working yarn to the back with all of your other ends. Okay, so we're going to use our first color, and we're just going to slip stitch it in there, pull our first one tight, turn it, and chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. Whoops, chain 3. Okay, now we're going to turn, and since this is in the middle, we're going to work 1 and 2 double crochets because that chain 3 counts as our first double crochet. So that's our chain 3 cluster. Next, we're going to go into our chain 2, which is the middle of our corner stitch from the previous round. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do our 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets. Whoops, let me finish that one. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, now we're back to the middle. So on this one, we're just going to work 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Over to the next one. This is a corner. So we're going to work 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets into this corner stitch. 3 double crochets, chain 2, 1, 2, and 3 double crochets. Okay, so now we're back to a middle. 3 double crochets. And that's basically all you're going to do all the way around. So next is a corner stitch. So 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. You're going to get to the middle here. In between our corner stitches, 3 double crochets. The last corner, you're going to work 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets, and then we're going to join. So go ahead and finish this round, and I'll join you back up. Okay, so now I'm ready to work my slip stitch into the top of the chain 3, the starting chain 3. Okay, bringing my yarn to the front, picking up, whoops, what did I do? This one goes in the back. There we go. So now I'm going to pull my yarn from the back, slip it through to the front, chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and turn. So all of our tails are back here, okay? So now we're going to work into this stitch right here. We're going to work 3 double crochets, or 2 more because we already have our beginning chain 3 to start us off. And we're just going to work all the way around, okay? So same rules apply. 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets. And we want to make sure that we're switching back and forth. That way our granny squares don't start to spiral. If you just work in one direction, you'll find that your granny square starts to slant. So you want to twist it back and forth with each new layer, and you really won't be able to tell the difference when it's done. So that you don't get a slant, you can get a nice clean square. Okay, so we got 2 middle sections here, 3 double crochets, 3 double crochets, and then our corner, 2 middle, corner, 2 middle, corner, 2, and then another middle, join. Okay, so go ahead and work this round, and we're going to work a total of 6. So you're going to do 1, 2, 3. This is our 4th. We're going to do 2 more rows after this. Okay, so we're done with this one. Pop into the top of my chain 3 from the beginning. Slip stitch. Now we bring this forward. Grab our second color. Pull it through. Chain 3. Okay, I'm just going to tighten that up a little bit and turn our work. 2 double crochet to make our 3 double crochet cluster. And again, just follow the same principle. 3 double crochet, corner stitch, 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. Okay, so I'm going to let you work on this one all the way around. And then you're going to do 1 more row, because like I said, we run 1, 2, 3, 4. This is row 5. And when you're finished with row 6, I'll join you back up and we'll get working on our first panel. Okay, granny square complete. Now I have all 8 granny squares that I need for my project. So what I'm going to do is, because I chose to use a couple of different variegated yarns, I'm just going to put my pieces of my granny squares together the way I want them to be on the panels of my bag. And I'm going to make sure that I'm matching right sides, that I'm not putting the wrong sides down. So you want to put right sides up. Like that one is a wrong side. That one is a right side. Okay, and my last one. Okay, so I'm happy with the way these look. And so this is going to be one set, and these are going to be another. So I'm going to take my sets, and if you recall, in my original, I like the dividing line. There's lots of different ways to join granny squares. I happen to like this little bit of edging here to show. You can see what it looks like from the inside. It looks like this. So if you wanted it to look like this, you will crochet upside down or the other way from what I'm telling you, the opposite way of what I'm telling you. And if you like this look, then you'll follow along with me. If you prefer to join it a different way, it really doesn't make any difference size-wise to the bag. So you can use whatever method you prefer to join your granny squares. But I'm going to join in this method. So I'm going to start from the bottom up on my panels. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my two right sides and I'm going to put them with their backs facing. I'm going to get my yarn and I'm going to insert it into that chain 2 space through both of them. And I'm just going to draw through and do a chain. Okay, then I'm going to chain 1 and then actually put a single crochet stitch in there. Okay, so now to join the tops of my granny square, so this is what it looks like from the tops of them. I don't know if you can see with the colors that I've chosen. So I'm just going to go, here are my actual stitches. There's the V right here. You can kind of see the V's from my stitches and the V's from the other side of the stitches. I'm going to take the inside of one V and the inside of the other V, and I'm going to single crochet. And I'm just going to do that all the way down the length of my squares. Just put a single crochet. If you can't see those V's, it really doesn't matter. You can go through all of the loops, or like I said, whichever method to join you prefer. This just happens to be mine. Okay, and they should line up pretty good. Whoops, split my yarn here. They should line up pretty good. If they don't, just do your best. It's not going to really make a ton of difference as long as it's mostly lined up. You can kind of flub 1 or 2 stitches and it won't mess up your project. But you do want to try to keep them as lined up as possible. Okay, so we're almost done with this one. Okay, so just in and out of those stitches. Whoops. Single crochet, single crochet, okay, so now that we're getting towards the top, working those last few stitches. Whoops, lost my stitch. Okay, and then I will just usually grab up this center here where the chain 2s meet and stitch. Now I'm going to grab my next set of panels and do the same thing. Fold them so the wrong sides are matching and place them next to the first set. Go through those chain 2 spaces and I'm going to work 2 single crochets in there in that chain 2 space, and then I'm just going to match up my inside stitches to finish that up. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and finish this, and then I'll show you how to line it across, and then you can work on your back panel. Be right back. Okay, so I've got it sewn all the way across. Take my scissors and cut my yarn. I'm going to pull that stitch through. Then I'm going to open up my panel, and that's what it looks like. Okay, so now to do this middle part, we're literally just going to take it and fold it again. So now all my wrong sides are matching still. Okay, and I'm going to take my yarn, if I can find my end, there it goes, and I'm going to do the same thing. Whoopsie, knocking stuff down. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to join in my chain 2s with my yarn. I'm going to make a slip stitch, and then I'm going to go back in there and put a single crochet. Then I'm going to find my stitches, and I'm going to stitch all along this side. Okay, now what I do when I get to the center is I will stitch in here, in these last stitches here, skip, and then stitch again on this other side. So I just kind of skip this center here. So go ahead and stitch along, finish your 2 panels, and I'll join you back up to join the 2 panels together. All right, you guys. So here is, let me get that centered. Here is my first panel. Here is my second panel, okay? And these are both right sides. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip one to the wrong side. So these are my wrong sides. You can see the way the stitches look. If you like that look, just stitch it up with the wrong sides facing and then flip it over so that these are your outsides. Here's my other wrong side. So wrong sides facing. Okay. And so I'm just going to start and stitch all the way along the sides on 3 sides of the panel, 1, 2, and 3, whichever one I want up. So I'm just going to kind of figure out which side I like to be my top, which sides I like to be my bottom. You can do that on both sides. You can, you know, flip them because they're squares. So it doesn't really matter. You can just play with it until you get the pattern that you want. If they're all matching, then you really don't have to worry about it because they're all going to look alike. And you're just going to join your yarn like you did when you joined the squares into the top corner. You're going to find the chain 2 stitch from your corner of your grannies, attach your yarn, oops, slip stitch, pull it tight, and then single crochet in there. And then you're just going to single crochet all the way around to join. Now when you get to those corner stitches, I like to put in 3 single crochets in my corner stitches to make a nice clean turn. And I'm just going ahead and joining through both loops of each side. So all 4 loops. I'm not necessarily just picking up the middle ones again like I did to join my squares. Like I said, it really doesn't matter, but I do kind of like the way it looks for the middle to have this little bit of an edge kind of feel to it. That's just me, but on the edge it doesn't really matter because you're just going to end up with this on your edge. Okay, so go all the way around. When you get to these corner stitches, like I said, put in these chain 2 sections 3 single crochets and then crochet on. 3 single crochets, crochet on. When you get to the top, do not cut your yarn because we're going to start working our top border for our bag. And I'm going to show you if you're choosing to add the buttonholes, we'll do that up at the top. If you're just going to sew in your liner and you don't want to do a buttonhole, then just add your border. You can do a granny square border. I did a simple single crochet border to finish up your bag. So it's really up to you. But go ahead and finish seaming up your sides and your bottom of your bag, and we'll join you back up to start working on our top border. Okay, so I've went ahead and I've worked all of my stitches around, and you can see here that there are 3 single crochets in that chain 2 space. worked across the bottom, worked my other 3 single crochets in this chain 2 space, worked across the top. So now here I am, here's my opening for my bag, and I'm going to start my single crochet border. So I've got my yarn that I did not cut, and I'm just going to work on one side at a time. I'm going to work a single crochet into that chain 2 space to bring me to the top, and then I'm just going to work a single crochet all the way across the top. Okay, so you're just going to single crochet all the way around. When you get to the corner, you're going to want to single crochet into this little, the join, and then single crochet all the way around. Okay, and we're going to work that. We're going to do 4 rounds of single crochet before we get to your buttonhole round. So we're just going to work in the round. We're not going to do anything about a chain or a slip stitch to join. We're just going to continue working all the way around for 5 rounds total. So this is your first. If you want to place a stitch marker to remind you where you started, go ahead and do that and work your 5 rows of your single crochet, and I will join you back up when all of those rows are complete. All right, so I just finished my 5 rows of single crochet. Now I'm getting ready to work on my button rows. And for this project, my last project I did 5 buttons, but they were smaller buttons. So these buttons that I'm going to use now are about 1 inch. They're about 1 inch wide. So I think I'm only going to put 4 buttons across. You can use bigger ones. These are a little bit bigger. These are probably about 1.25 inches across. And then you can use however many you want. If you want to use smaller buttons, then you'll make as many holes as you feel necessary. I mean, you can literally put, 10, 20 buttons on here if you want. So for my 4 buttons, I'm just going to kind of put 2 in each little granny square section, like so. So that's kind of where my buttons are going to be. And then I'll want to line them up on the other side so that they match. You can place stitch markers where you want your buttonholes to go. You can count how many spaces between, however you work best. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to single crochet until the stitch that you want your buttonhole to start. Okay, so I'm going to put my first buttonhole right about here. So I'm going to chain 2, 1 and 2. Then I'm going to skip 2, and then I'm going to start my single crochet again. So now I have this hole here for my button, and I'm going to crochet up until I get to the spot where I want my next button to be. Okay, and that's a good spot there. So I'm going to do my chain 2, going to skip 2, and then I'm going to work my single crochet until I get to my next buttonhole. So I'm just going to keep going until I get to the spot where I want my 3rd buttonhole to be, and I'm going to kind of eyeball it to about right here. Chain 2, skip 2, and then work my single crochet till I get to my last buttonhole on this side. Now all I've kind of done is I've kind of eyeballed it, and I looked and I said, okay, this buttonhole was kind of above that second, so this buttonhole is kind of above that second. The first buttonhole was above the second chain or 3 double crochet, so I'm going to put the next one kind of in that same spot. Okay, so that's the logic behind my madness, if you will. So right about here, chain 2, skip 2, and then single crochet. Okay, and so you're going to single crochet all the way around on your back side until you get to your starting point again. And then go ahead and finish your buttonhole row, and I'll join you back up once that's completed. Okay, so I've made it all around. I got my buttonholes worked on both sides of my bag. And to finish off the buttonhole portion, we're going to single crochet in each stitch till we get to our buttonhole. Then we're going to put 2 single crochets around those stitches, and then just keep going with our single crochets till we get to the next buttonhole space, which is right here. And then we're going to work 2 single crochets into that space and continue on. And we're going to do this all the way around. However many buttonholes you have, that's how many you're going to work. Now, if you are using smaller buttons, I would recommend instead of the chain 2, skip 2, maybe a chain 1, skip 1. That way your buttonholes are not too big for a smaller button. If you're using a larger button, same principle applies. You might want to think about chain 3, skip 3, depending on the size of your button. And the easiest way to check is to just take your button that you want to use and see how easily it passes through. Whoops, that one just shot out. See how easily it passes through your buttonhole. And if it's kind of on a snug side, that's perfect. You don't want it to just be able to slip on and off. So kind of gauge what size, how many chains you're going to need so that your button can fit snugly and securely without just kind of falling off, because you don't want your bag to be slipping off of the canvas tote. And another thing I wanted to say is if you don't have a canvas tote and you just want to make this as the bag itself, please, by all means, do that. You don't have to use this as a tote cover. You can use this as a simple little tote bag. Just add some cute little straps, however you want, maybe 1 single large strap, maybe 2 straps, you know, with 2 handles here, however you want to design that. I would suggest using a cotton yarn. If you're going to go ahead and do that, that's why it's a little more durable. It's a little more washer friendly. And it's going to absorb water if you have any kind of produce, or if you're going to carry maybe some, you know, groceries in there, something like that. You might want to use cotton, and cotton won't stretch as much as the acrylic, because that's the yarn that I'm using right now is the acrylic. And I'm only using acrylic, like I said, because this is a cover and it's not necessarily the tote bag. So it's not going to be absorbing any weight so that it's going to cause it to sag and pull at my stitches and at my yarn and cause it to be misshapen. The tote bag itself is going to be the one doing all the work. This little cover is just going to make it look pretty. So like I said, you can do this as the bag itself, which would be absolutely adorable. But I would suggest, again, using something that doesn't have quite as much stretch as an acrylic does. But that's just kind of my 2 cents on it all. Make your bag however you see fit. Okay, so now we are at the end. I've got all my buttonholes done, and you're just going to add a round or 2 of single crochet to finish it off. If you want to add a cute little scalloped edge, or if you want to go do a crab stitch reverse crochet to finish off the top, that's your design, your element that you want to add to it. If you want to make it so that it folds down or somehow folds in to cover the edge of the bag, you can do that. Just keep in mind that it does have those handles. If you're not doing the buttonholes because you're just going to sew it on to your canvas tote, that's fine. Obviously, you'll just add you know, 3 more rows of single crochet or whatever stitch that you're using for your border. And that's it. I'm not going to show you how to attach the buttons because I'm pretty sure most of us, if not all of us, know how to do that. Just take your thread and stitch these little buttons on and attach your cover. So that's it, folks. 2 more rounds. Tie in all your loose ends. I didn't do those yet for my border stitch, but this is your Not Your Granny's Tote. I hope you've enjoyed this crochet tutorial. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe, give me a thumbs up, click that little bell icon to be notified when new videos become available. I thank you for watching, and as always, happy hooking!